Mushroom Man and his Baby Button, were in the park. Mushroom Man had a big red mushroom cap for a head. It had white spots. Baby Button had a tiny mushroom cap, just like his dad. They were sitting on a soft green blanket. The birds were singing a happy song in the trees above them. It was a truly wonderful and peaceful morning, filled with the simple joys that make life so special and memorable. The air smelled sweet, like fresh-cut grass and blooming flowers, creating a perfect atmosphere for their little outing. Mushroom Man held a small red ball. He rolled it to Baby Button. "Here comes the ball, little one," he said with a big smile. Baby Button giggled and pushed the ball back with his tiny hands. The ball rolled slowly across the blanket. It was a game they loved to play together. The simple back and forth was their favorite pastime, a small ritual that filled their hearts with immense happiness. They could play this game for hours, lost in their own little world of joy and laughter, completely content with each other's company and the warmth of the sun on their mushroom caps. They played and played for a long time. The ball rolled and bounced. Baby Button's giggles were the best sound in the whole world to Mushroom Man. He felt so lucky to be a dad. He looked at his baby and his heart felt full of love. This park, this blanket, this moment, it was all perfect. He wished he could pause time and stay in this happy scene forever, just him and his precious Baby Button, sharing this simple, beautiful connection under the big blue sky. The world outside their little blanket seemed to fade away into insignificance. Suddenly, a little gust of wind blew. It was a playful wind. The red ball rolled off the blanket. It rolled down a small hill. "Oh no," said Mushroom Man. "The ball is running away." Baby Button pointed with his little finger, his eyes wide with surprise. The ball picked up speed as it tumbled down the grassy slope, bouncing over bumps and a few stray dandelions. Mushroom Man knew he had to get it back to continue their wonderful game. He stood up, ready for a small adventure to retrieve their runaway toy. Two police officers, Officer Mike and Officer Jenny, saw him running. They were driving their police car slowly through the park. They had never seen a man with a mushroom for a head before. They looked at each other with wide, surprised eyes. "Did you see that?" Officer Mike asked, pointing. "Is that a walking mushroom?" Officer Jenny just shook her head in disbelief, her mouth slightly open. It was not something they taught you about at the police academy. The officers thought he looked very suspicious. "Hey, you! Stop running!" shouted Officer Mike. But Mushroom Man did not hear them. He was focused only on the little red ball. He had to get it for Baby Button. He ran faster, his legs pumping. The police officers turned on their cars' flashing lights. The blue and red lights blinked brightly in the sunlight. This must be a very strange criminal, they thought. They had to catch him and find out what was going on. Their curiosity was now mixed with their professional duty to investigate anything out of the ordinary. The chase was on. The police car followed Mushroom Man through the park. Wee-woo, wee-woo, went the siren. Mushroom Man zigzagged around trees and jumped over benches. He was surprisingly fast and agile. "He's getting away," Officer Jenny said, gripping the steering wheel. She made a sharp turn, trying to get in front of him, but Mushroom Man was too quick. He ducked under a low-hanging branch, his mushroom cap just barely clearing it. The chase was becoming more and more comical, a strange dance between a determined father and two very confused officers. People in the park stopped to watch. They pointed and laughed. A man with a mushroom head being chased by a police car was not something you see every day. It was like a scene from a cartoon. Mushroom Man finally reached the bottom of the hill and grabbed the red ball. "I got it," he said happily. But when he turned around, he saw the police car stopping right in front of him. The two officers got out, looking very serious. Mushroom Man held the ball tightly, completely bewildered by all the sudden attention. "Hands up," Officer Mike commanded, trying to sound brave. Mushroom Man was very confused. He held up his hands, still holding. Officer Jenny could answer. The ground started to shake. A deep, rumbling sound came from behind a big group of trees. Everyone froze, their chase forgotten for a moment. The shaking grew stronger, and the happy birds in the trees suddenly flew away in a panic. Something very big was coming. Suddenly, a giant spider crashed through the trees. It was huge. It had 8 long, hairy legs and many big black eyes. It was bigger than the police car. The spider let out a loud, terrifying shriek. Officer Mike and Officer Jenny screamed. They had faced many dangers before, but a giant spider was not one of them. They dropped their notepads and stood frozen in fear. Their professional training had not prepared them for a monster from a nightmare appearing in the middle of a public park on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. The world seemed to have turned upside down in an instant. The giant spider saw the two police officers. It moved towards them, its hairy legs making loud thumping sounds on the ground. Its many eyes stared at them hungrily. Officer Mike and Officer Jenny were too scared to move. They huddled together, their faces pale with fright. "What do we do?" whispered Officer Jenny, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Officer Mike whispered back. They were trapped. The spider opened its huge mouth, showing sharp fangs. It looked like the end for the two brave officers of the law. Mushroom Man looked at the scared officers. Then he looked at the giant spider. He knew he had to do something. The officers were in big trouble. He couldn't just stand there and watch them get hurt, even if they had been chasing him just moments before. He felt a surge of courage. He was not just a dad with a mushroom head. He could be a hero, too. He took a deep breath, held the little red ball tightly in his hand, and prepared to face the enormous eight-legged monster that threatened the peace of his favorite park. "Hey, over here, you big bully," he shouted. The spider turned its many eyes towards him. It was surprised by the small, wobbly creature running at it. The bright red color of Mushroom Man's head seemed to confuse and annoy the giant beast. It took a step back, momentarily distracted from the two police officers who were still frozen in place. He then did something very brave. He ran right under the spider. It was dark and scary under there. He popped up on the other side and threw the little red ball right at one of the spider's big eyes. Boink! The ball hit the eye perfectly. The giant spider roared in pain and surprise. It shook its huge head and rubbed its eye with one of its hairy legs. It was more confused than hurt, but it was enough. The spider decided this park and its strange, bright inhabitants were too much trouble. It turned around and scrambled back into the trees, disappearing from sight. The park was quiet again. Officer Mike and Officer Jenny stared at Mushroom Man. He had just saved them. He wasn't a suspicious character, he was a hero. They walked over to him, their faces full of gratitude and amazement. You saved us," said Officer Mike, still in shock. "That was the bravest thing I have ever seen," added Officer Jenny with a warm smile. Mushroom Man just shrugged his wobbly head. "It was nothing," he said humbly. "I just didn't want it to ruin our perfect day in the park." He was just glad everyone was safe. Mushroom Man walked back up the hill to his baby. Baby Button was cooing happily on the blanket. The police officers followed him. They apologized for the chase and thanked him again. From that day on, Mushroom Man, Officer Mike, and Officer Jenny were the best of friends. They often met in the park for picnics. Mushroom Man and Baby Button would play with their red ball, and the officers would watch, making sure no more giant spiders interrupted their fun. It was the beginning of a beautiful and very unusual friendship, all thanks to a runaway ball and a heroic mushroom-headed dad.